Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, great. Today, we're tackling a figure whose influence is, well, it's almost impossible to overstate, really.
Yeah.
Pythagoras.
Pythagoras.
We're going way back to ancient Greece,
Right.
around 570 BC,
Okay.
to explore how this one man's ideas about numbers, music, and the cosmos still ripple through our world today.
You know what's fascinating is that we don't have any original writings from Pythagoras himself.
Oh, really?
But his impact is undeniable.
Wow.
It's like trying to piece together a puzzle, but some of the pieces are missing.
Right.
We're relying on accounts written centuries later.
Okay.
And those accounts, well, they're full of legends and contradictions.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But they still reveal just how profound an impact he had on Western thought.
It's almost like a detective story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sifting through these historical clues to try and figure out who he really was and what he actually believed.
Exactly.
So let's start with the basics. What do we actually know about Pythagoras' early life?
Well, he was born on this bustling island of Samos, known for its impressive engineering and just this vibrant culture.
So like a happening place.
Oh, yeah. And we know his father was likely a gem engraver or a wealthy merchant, something like that.
Interesting.
But the specifics of his early life get a little murky.
Murky, okay.
But what is interesting is how later writers emphasize his travels to places like Egypt and Babylon.
Wow, so he got around.
Whether he actually learned from Egyptian priests or studied with, say, the Persian Magi.
Right.
It's debatable for sure.
Okay.
But this idea of him synthesizing knowledge from these diverse sources really sets the stage, I think, for understanding his impact.
That makes sense. If he was exposed to such a wide range of ideas,
exactly,
it would explain why his own teachings were so multifaceted.
Right, touching on everything.
Math, philosophy, spirituality.
Absolutely. And speaking of spirituality, we have to talk about one of his most intriguing concepts.
Okay.
Metempsychosis.
Metempsychosis.
Yes, the transmigration of souls.
Okay, break that down for me.
Essentially, it's reincarnation.
Right.
The idea that the soul is immortal.
Right.
And it takes on a new body after death. Now, this wasn't just some mystical belief.
Okay.
It actually raised these profound questions about personal identity, moral responsibility, and the very nature of existence.
Big questions.
Right. Think about it. If the soul is reborn into different bodies, what does that even mean for our understanding of self?
Right.
And how does it impact the choices we make in this life, knowing our actions could have consequences for future incarnations?
That's a heavy thought.
It is, and it's a concept that still resonates with people even today, thousands of years later.
It does.
And it shows how Pythagoras wasn't just interested in, these abstract mathematical concepts.
Right.
He was grappling with some pretty fundamental questions.
About the human condition.
Exactly. And this is where we start to see how he changed the world, I think, by connecting mathematics to these deeper questions about life, death, the nature of the soul.
Right.
He paved the way for this new way of thinking about the universe, a way of thinking that would influence philosophers, scientists, and artists for centuries.
That's huge.
Huge.
So he's weaving together math, philosophy, and spirituality.
He is.
It's like he's laying the groundwork for a whole new way of understanding the world.
Precisely.
And speaking of math,
we
can't forget the concept that's most closely associated with his name.
Of course.
The Pythagorean theorem.
Right.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Every geometry student's
favorite formula.
Or maybe not so favorite.
Maybe not.
But
it's a big one.
Yeah.
And while the theorem itself might have been known in some form before Pythagoras,
it's true, probably was.
The fact that it became so closely associated with him speaks volumes, I think.
It does.
About his reputation.
For sure.
The Greeks saw him as more than just someone who memorized formulas.
Oh, yeah.
They saw him as someone who had unlocked a fundamental truth.
About the universe.
A truth that could be expressed to the elegant language of mathematics.
Beautiful, really.
So it's not just about the formula itself.
No.
It's about what it represents.
Yes.
This idea that the universe is governed by mathematical principles.
Yes.
Principles that we can discover and understand.
Exactly. And that idea that the universe is fundamentally intelligible. That there's this underlying order that can be grasped through reason and observation. It's a cornerstone of Western thought.
Really?
It is. It's why we can do science. It's why we can build bridges.
Right.
Create art that reflects the beauty and harmony of the natural world.
It all goes back to Pythagoras.
In a way, yeah.
It's amazing to think that a concept as seemingly simple as the Pythagorean theorem can lead to such profound insights about the nature of reality.
It is.
It's a testament to the power of abstract thinking, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The ability of the human mind to grasp these truths that go beyond our immediate sensory experience.
It's pretty remarkable.
It is.
And Pythagoras, through his emphasis on mathematics as a tool for understanding the universe, he helped to pave the way for this kind of thinking.
He did.
But, Pythagoras wasn't just a solitary genius working in isolation.
This is true.
He founded a school in Croton.
Right.
And this wasn't just a place for intellectual pursuits.
No. It was a whole way of life.
Really?
A whole way of life for his followers.
So what was it like to be a Pythagorean?
Well, imagine a mix between a university, a monastery, and a commune.
Wow. Okay.
It's a unique blend.
It is a unique blend, yeah.
They had these strict rules about diet, clothing, ritual purity, even how to put on your sandals.
Really?
And new initiates had to observe a 5-year period of silence.
5 years.
5 years of silence.
Wow.
This disciplined approach was all about purifying the soul. Preparing it for a higher existence.
Interesting.
Aligning with that idea of metempsychosis we discussed earlier.
Right, the transmigration of souls.
Exactly.
5 years of silence, that's commitment.
It is.
What was the purpose behind all these strict rules?
Well, it reflects this core principle of Pythagoreanism.
Okay.
The idea that the soul is on this journey of ascent.
Okay.
Striving to reach a higher plane of existence. And by following these rules, they believe they were not only elevating themselves, but contributing to a more harmonious and just society.
It's fascinating how they saw this connection between personal conduct and the well-being of the community.
Absolutely.
So it's like they believed that by understanding and living in accordance with these mathematical principles of the universe, they could create a better world.
For themselves and for others.
A beautiful idea.
It is. And this is where we see another way in which Pythagoras changed the world.
How so?
By inspiring this community of individuals.
Okay.
Dedicated to living a life guided by reason, harmony, and the pursuit of knowledge.
It wasn't just about these abstract ideas.
No.
It was about putting those ideas into practice.
Exactly.
Creating a model for how to live a meaningful life in accordance with these universal principles.
A model for everyone.
It's no wonder his followers were so devoted to him.
Not at all.
They saw him as a guide, a teacher, a visionary who offered them a path.
To a higher truth.
To a higher truth, exactly.
And it's this combination of intellectual brilliance, spiritual insight, and practical wisdom that makes Pythagoras such an enduring and influential figure.
It does.
Even though his school in Croton eventually faced political opposition and was destroyed.
Oh, no.
His ideas continued to spread.
It did.
Carried by these devoted followers. And they became integrated into various philosophical and religious and scientific traditions.
Throughout history.
Throughout history, yeah.
It's remarkable how his legacy managed to survive and thrive.
It is.
Even in the face of such adversity.
It speaks to the power of his ideas.
It does.
Their ability to resonate across time and cultures.
Across time and cultures, yeah.
For sure.
And it makes me even more curious to explore the different ways in which his legacy unfolded in the centuries after his death.
We'll get there.
Okay, great.
Yeah. It's fascinating how even the things Pythagoras, didn't directly discover still reveal something about him.
Okay, I like where this is going.
His impact, right.
Yeah.
Let's take the 5 regular solids, for example.
Okay, remind me, what are those again?
3-dimensional shapes, where all the faces are identical.
Oh, okay. Like a
cube?
Yeah.
Tetrahedron.
Okay.
Now, Pythagoras is often credited with discovering these.
Right.
But it seems these shapes were known in some form before him.
Okay. So what did he do?
What he might have done is systematize this knowledge.
Okay.
Proving mathematically that there are only 5 of these perfect solids.
So he brought the rigor of mathematical proof to something that might have just been observed before.
Exactly.
That seems like a recurring theme with him, right?
It does, doesn't it?
Finding the underlying mathematical principles behind things.
Exactly. And these shapes, with their perfect symmetry and mathematical properties.
Yeah.
absolutely fascinated the Pythagoreans.
Of course.
They saw them as representations of the fundamental elements of the universe.
Right.
Earth, air, fire, water.
Okay, the classic element.
And ether.
Right.
And they believed that understanding these shapes could unlock, the secrets of creation itself.
Wow, that's a big...
It is. And this is where we see his influence extending beyond just mathematics, right?
Okay.
It's about a way of thinking.
A way of...
A way of seeking the hidden order and harmony beneath the surface of things.
It's like he's giving us a new lens through which to view the world.
Yeah.
A lens that reveals the mathematical beauty.
And interconnectedness.
Of everything.
Precisely.
So it's more than just the math. It's a whole...
philosophy.
It's a philosophy.
Yeah.
And that lens, that Pythagorean perspective...
Yes.
...has continued to shape how we see the world, wouldn't you say?
I think so, yeah.
From the way we design buildings to the way we understand the laws of physics.
Absolutely.
Speaking of putting ideas into practice...
Yeah.
His school in Croton
right.
wasn't just a bunch of philosophers sitting around contemplating the universe.
Oh, no, they were active.
They were out there.
Involved in their community.
Even in politics.
That's right.
Really?
Pythagoras wasn't just an ivory tower philosopher.
Okay.
He believed that knowledge should be applied.
To make the world a better place.
Exactly.
Okay.
And his followers in Croton actually held public office.
Wow.
They advised leaders.
So they were putting these principles into action.
They were.
In the real world.
They believed in bringing harmony and order.
Not just to the individual soul.
But to society as a whole.
Okay.
Really interesting.
But this level of influence and involvement in politics must have led to some conflicts, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, their perceived exclusivity may have made them a target.
Okay.
The details are a little murky.
Murky, okay.
But their meeting place was attacked.
Oh, no.
And many members perished.
Wow.
It's a classic story, The visionary who challenges the status quo often faces opposition from those who benefit from the existing order.
It's a reminder that even the most brilliant ideas
don't exist in a vacuum.
They're always playing out against the backdrop of human ambition.
Power struggles.
Power struggles, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a tragic reminder that progress isn't always a smooth or straightforward path. But it's remarkable.
It is.
That even after the destruction of their school, Pythagorean ideas continued to spread and influence Western thought.
They did. They really did.
It speaks to the enduring power of those ideas.
It does.
So how did they manage to survive?
Well, think about Plato.
Okay.
His own philosophical system was heavily influenced by Pythagorean teachings.
Really?
His dialogues, particularly the Timaeus, are full of Pythagorean themes, like immortality of the soul, the mathematical harmony of the universe.
It's like those seeds we talked about earlier.
Taking root, sprouting new ideas centuries later.
So even though the Pythagorean school was physically destroyed, their intellectual and spiritual legacy lived on.
It did.
Inspiring new generations of thinkers and shaping the course of Western philosophy.
Exactly. And this influence wasn't limited to philosophy.
Where else did it show up?
We see Pythagorean ideas popping up in art, architecture, even early Christianity.
Wow, really?
Think about the Pantheon in Rome. Masterpiece of architecture.
That round building.
That incorporates Pythagorean numerology in its design.
No way.
The circular plan, the dome, the alignment with the cardinal directions.
So they were thinking about Pythagorean principles.
They were.
When they designed this building.
It reflects a Pythagorean worldview.
That's incredible.
To think that a philosopher from ancient Greece could influence the design of a Roman temple built centuries later.
It's amazing.
It really shows how deeply embedded his ideas became.
Yeah, in Western culture.
Absolutely.
Are there any other examples of this long-lasting influence?
Absolutely. The Renaissance saw a resurgence of interest in Pythagoreanism, with thinkers like Johannes Kepler seeing themselves as heirs to this tradition.
Wow.
Kepler, he was obsessed with finding the mathematical harmony of the universe.
Right.
And he drew inspiration from the harmony of the spheres.
Music of the spheres,
In developing his laws of planetary motion.
So the guy who figured out how planets move
was a Pythagorean fanboy.
That's amazing.
He even titled his book on the subject Harmonices Mundi.
Harmonices Mundi, what does that mean?
Harmonies of the world.
Wow, he was really into it.
He was.
And it seems like this influence continues even into more recent times.
Indeed.
Like how?
Even Isaac Newton,
Newton, wow.
the father of modern physics, attributed the discovery of the law of universal gravitation
To Pythagoras.
to Pythagoras.
That's mind-blowing.
And Albert Einstein himself
I
believed that scientists who value what he called logical simplicity could be considered Pythagoreans.
Wow, so even Einstein was dipping his hat.
In a way, yeah.
To Pythagoras.
It's amazing.
It's humbling to realize
It is.
how deeply connected our modern world is to the ideas of someone who lived over 2,500 years ago.
Thousands of years ago, yeah.
It seems like Pythagoras' influence is all around us.
It is.
Whether we realize it or not.
It's everywhere.
You've definitely convinced me that Pythagoras was more than just a guy with a triangle theorem named after him.
Good. I'm glad.
But how did his ideas continue to spread after his death?
Well, you're right. They weren't immune to political turmoil after helping Croton achieve a victory over the rival city of Sybaris.
Okay.
The Pythagoreans found themselves at odds with, supporters of democracy.
Oh, interesting.
The details are murky, as always.
Murky again.
But their meeting place was attacked.
Right.
So even though the school was destroyed, Pythagorean ideas didn't die with it.
So they must have been pretty powerful ideas to survive such a setback.
They were.
How did they continue to spread?
Well, for one thing, Pythagoras had inspired these devoted followers.
Okay, so they kept the teachings alive.
They carried on his teachings, and those teachings found fertile ground in the minds of later philosophers, artists, even scientists.
Really?
Think of Plato again.
Plato, okay.
Whose own philosophical system was heavily influenced by Pythagorean ideas. Interesting. His dialogues, particularly the Timaeus, are full of Pythagorean themes.
Like what we talked about before.
The immortality of the soul, the mathematical harmony of the universe.
So it's like those seeds we talked about earlier.
Taking root, sprouting new ideas centuries later.
So these ideas are still relevant centuries later.
They are.
Did this influence extend beyond philosophy?
Absolutely.
Where else did it show up?
We see Pythagorean ideas popping up in art, architecture, even early Christianity.
Wow, really?
Think about the Pantheon in Rome again.
Okay.
A masterpiece of architecture that incorporates Pythagorean numerology in its design.
So they were really thinking about Pythagorean principles.
They were.
When they designed this building.
It reflects a Pythagorean worldview.
It's incredible to think that a philosopher from ancient Greece could influence the design of a Roman temple built centuries later. It really shows how deeply embedded his ideas became in Western culture.
It does.
Are there any other examples of this long-lasting influence?
Many.
Okay.
The Renaissance saw a resurgence of interest in Pythagoreanism.
Okay, so people are rediscovering these ideas.
They are.
During the Renaissance.
With thinkers like Johannes Kepler.
Okay.
Seeing themselves as heirs to this tradition.
Wow, so they were really studying Pythagoras.
They were.
And trying to apply his ideas.
Kepler, obsessed with finding the mathematical harmony of the universe. Drew inspiration from the harmony of the spheres in developing his laws of planetary motion.
So the guy who figured out how planets move?
Was basically a Pythagorean fanboy.
Was a Pythagorean fanboy?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He even titled his book on the subject Harmonices Mundi.
Harmonices Mundi, right?
Harmonies of the world.
Wow.
So yeah, he was really into it.
And it seems like this influence continues into even more recent times.
Indeed.
Really?
Even Isaac Newton, the father of modern physics.
Wow. Newton
attributed the discovery of the law of universal gravitation to Pythagoras.
Really?
And Albert Einstein himself believed that scientists could be considered Pythagoreans.
Wow, so even Einstein.
Insofar as they value logical simplicity as a key principle in their work.
That's mind-blowing.
It is.
It's humbling to realize how deeply connected our modern world is to the ideas of someone who lived over 2,500 years ago.
It's amazing.
It seems like Pythagoras' influence is all around us.
It is, whether we realize it or not.
That's the thing about truly groundbreaking ideas.
They have a way of transcending time and place.
They do.
Pythagoras may be a figure shrouded in mystery and legend.
Yeah, for sure.
But his impact is undeniable.
Definitely.
He changed how we view the universe, how we think about mathematics, and perhaps even how we understand ourselves.
Absolutely.
And what's even more fascinating is how his ideas were not just preserved, but reinterpreted and adapted over the centuries.
So they evolved.
They evolved.
They weren't just static.
No.
Okay.
They took on new meanings as they encountered different cultures and intellectual traditions.
So where should we go next in this journey through the history of Pythagorean thought?
Let's jump ahead.
Okay.
To the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages. A time often seen as a period of intellectual darkness in Europe.
Yeah, the so-called Dark Ages.
It's kind of surprising how Pythagorean ideas not only survived, but flourished in some unexpected places.
Okay, so not exactly known for its love of ancient Greek philosophy.
Not really, no.
So where were these pockets of Pythagoreanism hiding out?
Well, for one thing, they were preserved in the Islamic world. Which had translated and studied many Greek texts.
Okay.
These Islamic scholars played a crucial role, really, in ensuring that this knowledge from antiquity wasn't lost.
So they were the keepers of this ancient wisdom.
In a way, yeah. And it was through those Arabic translations that Pythagorean texts eventually made their way back to Europe.
Oh, interesting.
Sparking a renewed interest during the Renaissance.
So while Europe was going through its own transformations, the Islamic world was keeping the flame of classical learning alive.
They were.
That's fascinating how knowledge can flow across cultures like that.
It is.
And be reinterpreted in new contexts.
Exactly. And during the Renaissance, we see figures like Leonardo da Vinci.
Da Vinci, wow.
And Nicholas Copernicus.
Okay.
Embracing Pythagorean ideas.
Really?
Copernicus, who revolutionized our understanding of the universe.
Right, with his heliocentric model.
Drew heavily on Pythagorean concepts.
Right.
Mathematical harmony, the sphericity of the Earth.
So they were still thinking about Pythagoras.
Oh, yeah.
Centuries later.
It's incredible how those ancient ideas
found
new life.
And
influencing some of the most groundbreaking scientific discoveries.
That's amazing.
It shows how even in a time of great change and upheaval, that quest for knowledge and understanding, it persisted.
And this Pythagorean influence continued.
It did.
Into the scientific revolution.
With figures like Johannes Kepler and Isaac Newton.
So the scientific revolution that shaped our modern world was, in a way, a continuation of the intellectual journey that Pythagoras began.
You could say that, yeah.
His emphasis on mathematical harmony and the intelligibility of the universe laid the groundwork
for a scientific approach to understanding the world.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
It is.
It's mind-boggling to think about the long-lasting impact of one person's ideas.
It really is.
But there's another side to Pythagoreanism that we haven't really explored yet.
Oh, okay.
A more mystical or esoteric side.
Yes, a little more mysterious.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Imagine a world where knowledge is shrouded in secrecy.
Okay.
Passed down through whispers and hidden symbols.
Ooh, I like this.
That's the world of Western esotericism.
Esotericism, okay.
A tradition that drew heavily on ancient wisdom, including the teachings of Pythagoras.
So, like secret societies and hidden knowledge.
Yeah, groups like the Freemasons and Rosicrucians.
Oh, okay, I've heard of those.
They were fascinated by Pythagoras.
Really?
They saw him as a master of hidden knowledge. They incorporated Pythagorean symbolism and numerology into their rituals and beliefs.
So they weren't just interested in the math and philosophy.
No.
They saw a mystical, almost magical side to Pythagoras.
Exactly.
Like he had access to some secret truths.
They believed his teachings held keys to unlocking these deeper truths about the universe and the human soul.
Interesting.
And this fascination extended to individuals as well.
Okay, like who?
Thinkers like John Dee, the famous Elizabethan scholar and alchemist, was heavily influenced by Pythagorean ideas.
So it's amazing how his legacy could be so multifaceted.
It is.
To some, he was a brilliant mathematician, a philosopher, while to others, he was this mystical figure who held the secrets to ancient wisdom.
It's a testament to the enduring power of his ideas.
Right, their ability to be interpreted and reinterpreted in so many ways.
And taking on these new meanings, inspiring people across different eras and cultures.
Exactly, and it's not just a historical curiosity.
No.
This esoteric side of Pythagoreanism
has had a surprising influence on some of the things we take for granted today.
Okay, you've piqued my curiosity.
Yeah.
How did esoteric Pythagoreanism shape the modern world?
Well, think about the vegetarian movement.
Okay, vegetarianism.
It might seem like a modern idea.
Yeah.
But its roots actually go way back to Pythagoras and his followers.
Really?
Who often abstained from eating meat for spiritual reasons.
So those tofu burgers and veggie wraps we enjoy today have a connection to an ancient Greek philosopher.
They do, and this connection was popularized during the Renaissance through Ovid's Metamorphoses.
Metamorphoses, okay.
Which features a speech by Pythagoras advocating for a vegetarian diet.
Interesting.
And this speech became hugely influential, inspiring writers like John Donne and Michel de Montaigne.
Wow, big names.
And even making its way into Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice.
So Pythagoras, the ancient vegetarian influencer?
You could say that.
But it sounds like his influence goes beyond specific dietary choices, right?
Exactly. There's a deeper, more philosophical influence of esoteric Pythagoreanism that's worth considering.
Okay, like what?
Think about its core belief, right?
Yeah.
That there's this hidden order to the universe.
Okay.
A deeper meaning that can be accessed through symbolism, numerology, intuition. Doesn't that sound familiar?
It does. It seems like that quest for meaning.
Yeah.
That search for something beyond the surface of things.
It's still very much alive today.
It is.
Whether it's through spirituality, art, or even our fascination with conspiracy theories.
Yeah, we love a good conspiracy theory.
We're still drawn to this idea that there are secrets to be unlocked.
Right.
Hidden truths that can explain the world around us.
Okay, so we're all a little bit Pythagorean at heart.
And that impulse, in a way, is a legacy of that esoteric Pythagorean tradition.
So even though we might not be performing ancient rituals or studying numerology, that urge to find a deeper meaning, to connect with something larger than ourselves.
It's still very much a part of the human experience.
It is.
It's a reminder that the ideas of Pythagoras, in all their complexity and strangeness,
for sure,
continue to resonate with us.
On a deep level.
On a deep level, even thousands of years after his death.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From math and music to philosophy and esotericism.
It's been a journey.
It really has. And it's amazing to think how one person from ancient Greece could have such a profound and lasting impact on the world.
It is truly remarkable.
It is.
And his story reminds us of the power of ideas.
Right. Their ability to transcend time and place.
Shaping how we view the universe, how we live our lives, and how we make sense of our own existence.
I think we've explored just about every facet of Pythagoras' incredible legacy. But before we wrap up, I have one last question.
Okay.
About the legend of his death.
Yes. The story of the fava bean field.
The fava bean field. Okay, what's that all about?
It's a dramatic and memorable tale.
It is.
But like a lot of things with Pythagoras,
the historical truth.
It's a little elusive.
So did he really meet his end because he refused to trample some beans?
Well, the sources offer conflicting accounts.
Okay.
Some say he was killed during the attack on the school in Croton.
Right.
While others claim he escaped and died later.
Okay.
The fava bean story, while popular, seems to have originated from a later writer describing other Pythagoreans, not Pythagoras himself.
So another case of the legend taking on a life of its own?
It happens.
But I can see how it would have resonated with his followers.
Absolutely.
Reinforcing their image of him as a martyr for his beliefs.
Exactly. It adds that tragic element to his biography. Emphasizes the dedication of those who followed his teachings.
Well, regardless of how he actually died.
Yeah.
It's clear that his ideas lived on, shaping the course of Western thought.
They did.
In profound ways. And that, I think, is the most important takeaway from our deep dive into the world of Pythagoras.
What's that?
The enduring power of a mind that dared to see the universe.
Through the lens of numbers.
Through the lens of numbers and harmony.
Beautifully said.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Good.
I'm feeling inspired to look for those Pythagorean echoes in my own life.
I like it.
Thanks for guiding us through this fascinating journey.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to continue the exploration.
Absolutely. Delve into the works of Pythagoras.
Ponder the mysteries of the universe.
And see if you can spot his hidden influence.
In your own world.
In your own world, it's all around us.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.
I'll see you next time.